When we began the pentatonic zone, I initially decided that it would be a 6-week course. Why did I choose 6 weeks? Well, it just sounded like a nice round number. 5 weeks didn't sound right even though there are only 5 pentatonic patterns. Well, everybody, this is like an extra week of summer vacation. I'm letting you out of school a week early. This is the final lesson in this series. You all did such a great job that we covered the material in only 5 weeks. What do you think about my Randy Rhoads Jackson? It almost looks like a new guitar, doesn't it? Well, I've had this since 1986. It appeared in numerous magazine ads in the 80s. Some of you are familiar with those. And was used in the introduction to the 1992 course revision. It's been around. I forgot how much I love this guitar. It has active electronics that boost the gain of the pickups for additional drive and distortion, and it just looks deadly. And I kind of like that. I'm ready to move on to the next series of lessons next week. I've been looking forward to what's up for several months. I wrote the lesson several months ago, and until now haven't been able to share it, so this is great. Next week, we begin the 5-note lead. That's right, from mastering the entire neck, we're going to get small, tiny. The complete lead is in one position and includes only 5 notes. I know this sounds like we're moving backwards, but think about it. There are only 5 notes in the pentatonic scale. You can run up and down the neck, and there are still only 5 notes. So melodically, you can do it all in one small area of your fretboard. Granted, it doesn't look as impressive as playing up and down the neck, but if you can make a 5-note lead in one place sound awesome, think what that could mean to your overall skill level. You'll see next week. Until then, think small, tiny place on the neck. Play around with this concept during the next week. See what you can do with 5 notes in one area of the fretboard. Here's a clue. You must minimize repetition, be melodic, and use rhythmic diversity. Now that's a big phrase right there, rhythmic diversity. So let's analyze that. You can't just play 16th notes and capture my attention. By rhythmic diversity, I mean, think snare drum. Think of the diversity created by a snare drum and it's playing a single note. Okay, on to this week's lesson. You worked so hard on the first 4 lessons of the pentatonic zone. I'm going to let you off really easy this week. There are only 3 exercises, and one of them is easy. So we'll begin with that. Exercise 1 is the 5th pattern of the pentatonic scale. And here's what the 5th pattern looks like an octave lower. Same notes in the same order, just an octave lower. Of course, you can do the same thing for any other pattern as you change keys, which will put a lower octave in this position for other patterns. Exercise 2 is a killer. This is where you show me that you know the entire fretboard in A minor. I've kept these patterns in the same key throughout this series to minimize confusion. But I expect you to practice all 5 patterns in other keys on your own. That will really put the pentatonic scale in perspective. Now we're going to play exercise 2 at 85 beats per minute. If that's really too fast, it's understandable. Only play this to your max and gradually work up to 85 beats per minute and beyond. If you're an experienced player, you're on your own. You're challenged to play this to your max and also beyond. So here we go. Exercise 2. Exercise 3 is the complete pentatonic lead that we've been working on throughout this series of lessons. I've changed it up a bit. Until now, most of this lead has been played using alternate picking. For this final version, hammer pulls are acceptable because the metronome has been moved up to 110 beats per minute. Now, if that's too difficult to play, just do it as fast as possible, but keep it clean. Please record your performance. I would appreciate it if you would upload it to YouTube and send me a link to take a look at. The backing track for this was written by me, recorded and produced by DJ Nelson. The one thing that I need to get across about the pentatonic zone is, even though we've been working on these fundamentals for 5 weeks, it's really not over. If you don't continue to review these 5 patterns every time that you pick up the guitar, you'll lose much of what we gained. So let's take this series of exercises and build on it. I recommend going through the entire 5-week program every few months. You don't need to obsess on it as we have in the past 5 weeks, but why not devote part of your practice time each week to a different pentatonic pattern? When you can play all of these exercises at 80 beats per minute, you have completed this section of the course. If you're not quite there yet, it's okay to move on to the next lesson in this series, but a substantial amount of your practice time should still be devoted to the second exercise in this lesson. Also, practice the 4 sequences reviewed in last week's lesson. See you next week as we move on to the 5-note lead. We'll really have fun with that one. See you then.